This is example 1, a single file transcription with all the default parameters left just as they are. Alright, let's get started with the demonstrations. For demo 1, let's navigate to Files, and for this first part we'll upload the audio files that we're going to need. So all I've done is click on the Files tab on the left of the screen, browse into the folder structure we just created, into our sensitive data folder, and into the input files folder. What I would like to do now is upload files to this directory. And there is the option of clicking on this drop down area where you'll get a file browser where you can go in and select a file. Otherwise, you can just navigate to your file browser and have all of your files ready in a folder. You can select those files collectively and drag and drop them where they will automatically be added to the platform one at a time. It looks like I missed the other two. Let's put the other two in there, 1, 2, and 3. And that's it for file upload. You just click off the box in that gray area to the sides and you'll be taken back to the folder. Because I put these files into the sensitive data folder, you can see that it is automatically demarcated as a sensitive file. That's it for the upload. Let's go back to our landing page where I would like to just point out that there's this recent run section that currently has nothing in it. For this first example, we're going to look for the Whisper transcription application, which it is currently called, and then go into applications. In the tabs in the search section below, these search results give you responses to inside your project what files you have that respond to those two words in the search, and then you can go to the applications tab to find the application. I'm going to click the application which automatically opens it. We're going to run example 1's transcription, and for example 1 we said we would do a simple single file transcription. The first thing you do is give your file or your job a good name. Example 1 was not a great one. Whisper transcription demo single file, no additional settings is what I'll call that job. It's going to run for significantly less than an hour because I'm only going to choose one file and I'll pick the smallest one, and it's going to run on a machine that I've chosen here, which we believe to be the most effective at the moment, a 16 vCPU machine that costs £1.36 per hour, as is what we did recommended previously. You need to then choose either a file or a directory. In this case, we're just going to choose a file, and when I click this use option for these parameters, I get a parameter box that comes up above it, and in this black outlined file section, you can click to get a file browser and then navigate to the file that you want to get to. Sometimes when you have multiple people in a project, you get navigated automatically to an incorrect person's file, member files. So just be sure that you are in the file location that you're looking for, at least your own one in this case, and find that members file drive. So this is project drive, and then folder will come once I go in here. So I'm in the first folder level was my sensitive data folder, and then input files is the folder that I set up for our input files, and then I'm just going to select the smallest of these 3 audio files to show you what the output looks like. And to the right hand side there's a blue button that says use, and I'm going to do that, or select that, click it, and the path to that file comes up in this input file location. That's all I need to do, and I'm going to submit it. That job is being prepared. All of the other jobs are going to follow this same process. The uCloud platform needs to allocate the compute resources. Once it has done that, the screen changes to the one that you can see now. The job is starting up, the compute resources have been allocated, and once that node is operational, you'll find that this section at the bottom, where currently it just says one node and is blank, begins to populate with the job information. Once the application starts running and the threads are available, you'll see that Whisper's model information or output begins to show up in that section. I'm going to skip forward to when this file completes its transcription. Okay, so that transcription is now completed, and you can see that there's a number of pieces of information provided to you once the job is done. You can see the job has completed because in the messages section on to the right, the last message you can see is that the job has terminated. You can also see that a number of things have populated in a files section just beneath the screen. One of the things you may have noticed is that between the previous screen and this one, that bottom section where the information about how the application was running has disappeared. To find that information, you can select the standard out text file and view a preview of that just by clicking on it. If I click on that, you'll see that in the preview section at the bottom, all of the timestamps together with the information that was provided by the application from the terminal are available to read. And you can see that this application started at 13:46:55 and was completed by 13:48:39. So the total elapsed time of the model was just over 2 minutes, or just under 2 minutes, I beg your pardon, 46:55 through to 48:39, so just under 2 minutes. But you can see also that the time elapsed, or the time it took, is specified to be 41 seconds. And the reason for that is that the job itself ran for a period of about 55 seconds outside of the time that was required to actually do the transcription. The machine has to boot up, initialize, and start the transcription, load the file in, and prepare the model, etc., etc. So the total time for the job is slightly in excess of what it takes to actually do the transcription for the file. Just something to bear in mind. There will be a few seconds either side of it that will need to be covered by your job. So if we go back to that output window, you'll notice that at the bottom here, very, very conveniently, with the default options, we can see a number of things have been provided. This JSON parameters file, or this job parameters JSON file, is a description of all of the parameters you chose when running the model. So if you click it, you can view the JSON file at the bottom of the screen, and you can see all of the parameters in a standard JSON output. If you want to rerun this job, those JSON parameters will be selected to rerun that job. So let's go back to our folder. The other thing you can see here, apart from the standard out and the parameters file, is something that looks like an audio file. Whisper audio _3.m4a looks like the file that we used. But something to be very aware of is that there are no data values. There's no data behind the name of this file. All it is an indexed, or at least a basic placeholder file for you to be able to see what file name was used when running the application. If you had used a folder, that entire folder would be recreated here, but with empty files in it. So just be aware you don't have your data duplicated just because you can see it in this view. The other thing that pops up here is an out folder. And we ran the default options, and when you do that, it creates this out folder in this folder that we're looking at. I'll explain where this folder is shortly, but all of the output from the job that we've just run is now available in this out folder. If we click the transcribe log file, you can see this is the same information that was in the standard text file previously, just without the initialization line. Apart from that, there is a CSV file, a docx file, a JSON file, which has all of the detailed information about the model run. So each individual word's log probability, as well as additional information about where the token is, or what the token label is, and you can get into all the details if you like. I'm not going to go into them now. The other file that's available is a JSON.JSON file, which can be used for anyone who's working with the DOT program. The SRT file is a subscript file, or at least a subtitle file, a standard subtitle file, as far as I recall, the VTT file is at the bottom here. TSV is tab separated values. TXT is a basic text file with new lines for each sentence, or at least each sentence that the model identified. And then the docx is similar to the text file, but with an additional column in the initial part of it. Let me just see if I can get a preview of that. I'm not sure it will. It might. It does. Unfortunately, you can't see it. It's a standard XML OpenOffice XML file. But you can download that and open it in Microsoft Word if you have Microsoft Word on your computer. In addition to that, there is a zip file at the top. This archive is a new feature that Pelle developed, and it is a zip file that you can download that contains all of the files in this folder, with of course the exception of the zip file. So you can download that instead of what otherwise would be required, which would be clicking on the 3 buttons to the right and selecting the download button each time individually per file. Otherwise, what you could have done is run a separate archiving file or archiving application on uCloud to build this zip file. But now, fortunately, Pelle has developed this so that you can get the zip file out automatically. Something you need to be very aware of, as I said, we have selected the default options for this run. And I'm going to go back to my landing page. You can see if I select the landing page, the uCloud icon on the top left, I go back to my landing page. You can see in recent runs, the Whisper Transcription demo is file, single file, etc. Title of that run is up here under recent runs. And that's where we've just been. So I can click that again and it takes me back to this job completion page. One of the things we set up when we started this was a folder called sensitive data. And in the sensitive data folder, we have got our input files. And we have an individual folder for each one of the outputs that we wanted. If you go into the outputs here, you can see there's no information. And the reason for that is that we did not specify the output folder when running the application. And if you don't do that, what will happen is that the data that you have created, so this, let's say we're working with sensitive data and we do a transcription, the text that is generated from that file will also be sensitive. And this ends up in a folder called jobs in your members file, which is not necessarily marcated or demarcated as a sensitive folder. You can log into or click into that Whisper Transcription overarching folder, and the first thing that will be there is the name of the job you've just run. Within that, you'll find that folder location that you could see in the job completion window. And here you will find this out folder. Our interpretation is that the data you generate here in text form is just as sensitive as the data that is located in that initial folder in audio form. So please just be aware that when you do run transcriptions with sensitive data, you should always specify the folder output location when you specify the parameters for your job. That's it for this first example. We'll get on to the second and third and fourth examples shortly.